This is Orlando Sentinel Now.
Hello, it's Wednesday, January 12th. Rich Pope here with Steve Lemongello and Matt Palm. And today we're going to talk about Governor DeSantis opening the legislative session in the state yesterday. Also, we're going to find out about Steinmetz Hall, Orlando's newest venue for the arts. We're going to start here with Steve. So Governor DeSantis started the legislative session yesterday with his State of the State address. Of course, opposition to COVID restrictions front and center. Steve, how did things unfold yesterday?
Basically, DeSantis repeated his message of the last year about complete opposition to any COVID protocols or restrictions. He called Florida the freest state in the United States. One of the more interesting quotes he said was, while so many around the country have consigned the people's rights to the graveyard, Florida has stood as freedom's vanguard, which led a lot of opponents and Democrats to, say that they probably shouldn't use the word graveyard in there, considering the death toll of COVID over the last couple of years here in Florida, especially with the summer surge.
While so many around the country have consigned the people's rights to the graveyard, Florida has stood as freedom's vanguard. In Florida, we have protected the right of our citizens to earn a living, provided our businesses with the ability to prosper, fought back against unconstitutional federal mandates, and ensured our kids have the opportunity to thrive.
That's basically what his message was. There was a lot of red meat for the Republican base, a lot of thoughts that he's, prepping himself for a run for the presidency in 2024.
Yeah, and with that came a lot of jabs at federal government, slammed Democratic governors in other states as well.
He blasted other states. He blasted the federal government for the quote-unquote biomedical security state and blind adherence to Faucian declarations. Said of his decision to open up school, we were right and they were wrong. This all comes as Florida is in the middle of its Omicron wave. 125,000 new cases the day before. Hospitalizations slightly down, but still at more than 9,000. And of course, since the beginning of the pandemic, nearing 5 million Floridians testing positive and 62,000 reported deaths. But DeSantis, since very early in this, has simply just not talked about that really, and is mostly focused on keeping Florida without any restrictions, keeping Florida, quote unquote, free. And that's essentially the message he had yesterday.
Yeah, outside of the COVID realm, what other things did he take on? Looked like inflation was also addressed in his speech.
Yeah, he called inflation an invisible tax, and he reiterated a call for a $1 billion gas tax holiday, which he called for at the height of when gas prices, were at their highest maybe about a month or so ago. So he also claimed that the federal government system of handling asylum seekers is, quote, a massive human smuggling operation run by the federal government. But some of the other things he called for a stricter Parents' Bill of Rights, essentially that would allow parents to sue schools if they believe critical race theory or other things like that were being taught. $1,000 bonuses for teachers and law enforcement officers, of course, which that, as well as the $15 billion in reserves in the budget that he also crowed about, was also thanks to newfound revenue from Congress as part of last year's pandemic relief bill.
Right. Democratic candidates that are challenging the governor in 2022 all chimed in or were quick to give their opposition to his address.
Yeah, Charlie Crist, in a video response, said he was making Floridians more divided than ever. Said he gave his donors special access to the vaccine, but nearly 1 million COVID tests expire while people waited in line for hours. Nikki Fried, the agriculture commissioner, said he's, fining school board members for mask mandates. Said he would probably back a very strict abortion bill yesterday. So she said he was being hypocritical in saying Florida was the freest state. And also Annette Taddeo, state senator from Miami, essentially said he was, quote, pandering to the primary voters in Iowa and turning Tallahassee into his personal ambition for president.
Yeah, but it seemed like for the most part, Florida very Republican as far as the party in control and in step with the governor as far as the session begins.
Yeah, everything he said got huge applause from the people, I guess the Republicans. There's 3 less Democrats in the House because DeSantis decided to hold a special election after the death of Congressman Alcee Hastings in South Florida. DeSantis scheduled the primary for January and the election for March, meaning that anyone who wanted to run for that seat would have to resign from the House. So therefore, there's a bunch of less Democrats on one side. And it's not like the Congress, where Republicans with their 50 seats in Senate can filibuster everything. In Florida, if you have one more you're getting a few more seats than the other party, then you just essentially do what you want.
All right, well, interesting one there. You can read on OrlandoSentinel.com. Of course, stay with OrlandoSentinel.com as well for updates throughout the session. Just starting up right now. Appreciate that. All right, moving forward here to Matt Palm. You got to see Steinmetz Hall, Orlando's new signature venue for the arts. It has a lot of bells and whistles. It's a marvel, Matt. What's going on?
Well, as you may have heard, it's opening. It's opening. I mean, we've been waiting for years, decades, for this hall to be finished at the Dr. Phillips Center for the Performing Arts. And so it's a real exciting week in Orlando for the arts community. This is the hall that will be mainly used for orchestral performances, the ballet, the opera, but it also has the capacity to have special guests for the opening ceremony. We're going to see Jennifer Hudson. We're going to see Lyle Lovett. We're going to see Leon Bridges. Big names, excited. Broadway's Audra McDonald is coming to perform. So, I mean, it's going to be a big premier venue, one of the best in the world. And that's in part for two reasons, Rich. It has incredible acoustics. It's got the highest rated acoustics you can imagine, to the edge of human hearing, they say. And it also can transform itself, which seems magically, into different kinds of theaters, traditional theaters, a concert hall in the round, a flat floor. I mean, it's just so full of bells and whistles. This is a hall like nothing we have ever seen in Orlando before.
Yeah, let's talk about those acoustics. As you mentioned, just state of the art, and essentially getting this room tuned was an art form in itself. Talk about what they had to do to make sure it was precise.
Right. Well, it starts with the construction. A lot of what affects the acoustics is stuff that we don't see. This building is completely floating, they say. I mean, even down in the ground, it sits on these concrete pillars that then sit on these rubber cushions that absorb shocks. It's like the shock absorbers in your car, but there's a whole bunch of them under the floor of this building. So any vibration in the earth, if a train goes by 5 blocks away, which it will, downtown Orlando, the rumbling, the noise that would travel through the earth is absorbed by those rubber things, and it never gets into the hall. You don't even get the sensation of it or hear it or anything. It sets in its own little casement away from the rest of the arts center. There's like an actual gap of the walls of that hall and then the rest of the arts center. It's a building within a building. So any of the noise that's in the rest of the hall does not filter into this hall. All the mechanical equipment, the air conditioning, the lighting, all the mechanics that run that might make any hint of a noise, a rumble, or something, they're in the other part of the building. And also, you cannot hear them in there. I mean, everything has been thought to the last degree of how can we not have that noise in this hall? And so they've achieved it. What you can see, although you probably won't notice, is along the walls of Steinmetz Hall are about, I think, 70 fabric curtains. They call them curtains. They don't look like curtains like you'd hang on a window. It's more like sheets of fabric built into the wall. And those can be adjusted. They pull them down, they lift them up a little. It's all these precision adjustments to them. And they also control how the sound moves in the hall. Like I said, you can see them if you look specifically for them. You know what you're looking for, but you probably won't notice. They blend right in seamlessly. And they also contribute to this amazing sound. I mean, I cannot wait. I have not heard it. I've seen it. I have not heard it yet, but that's coming right up. I can't wait.
Another thing that is just a star of this whole venue is the ability to transform and become a completely different hall depending on who is performing there. And you actually got to see that in action. This looks really cool.
It's crazy. And I thought I understood how it was going to work, but I really didn't. It's a show unto itself. What they can do is, it's called a multiform room. They can change the form. The traditional theater, Rich, what you and I think of as going to the theater, is called proscenium theater. And that's when you sit, you face a stage, and there's like a frame around the stage. The stage looks like a box, like your TV screen almost. I mean, it's usually a rectangle. It's right in front of you. That's a proscenium stage. And the proscenium is actually the frame. But they can lift that frame all the way up into the ceiling so it disappears. And then the backstage, what would be behind the normal stage, rolls forward. It weighs like half a ton, I believe is the measurement. It rolls forward on these train tracks, connects to the rest of the theater, and creates seating in the round. So you like an arena, for example, where you have seats that go all the way around the stage and the performers in the middle. This is the concert hall setup. So an orchestra can play in the middle with people watching on all sides. And if you're an orchestra lover, you will immediately think of, oh, well, that would be interesting, because usually you don't see the conductor in the orchestra. You see the back of his head. He's facing the musicians. But now, if you want, you can sit on the back side and actually face the conductor, looking over the musicians. So that's kind of a little bonus for orchestra fans. But then what we got to see this week was a third configuration where instead of having the raked floor, and theaters usually have a slope on their floor so that the people sitting, you see over the heads a little bit of the people in front of you, they can make the floor flat. And this is so if you wanted to have a dinner party there. They could put tables on a flat floor. If you wanted to do something with dancing, some sort of dinner dance type show, maybe a cabaret where, there's one singer and he or she is right down there on the floor with you or on a little platform on the floor. So it's very up close and personal. The way they flatten the floor is there's mechanics all under this hall that will flip the seats over and make them disappear into the floor, which then flattens. So it's crazy. Row by row, these seats come up out of the floor, they turn around, they come to different levels because it all has to be worked out so they don't hit each other as they flip. And I mean, the whole place transforms. It only takes about 10 to 15 minutes, and you just see an entirely different look. Suddenly the floor is flat, whereas before it was full of seats, or vice versa.
This is crazy, Matt. So it seems like it's something that the public will never see.
Probably not, Rich. I mean, hopefully it'll be all ready for you when you show up for your show, so you have a seat wherever it's supposed to be. But the public can get their first look at the hall set up in one of the configurations this weekend. There's an opening ceremony Friday morning, and then the hall will be open for a free open house starting at noon to 4. And then if you can't come during the week, on Saturday during the day, they will also have the hall open and available to look around and check it out and just see how amazing it looks.
That's exciting. Well, exciting time for Orlando. I can tell you're giddy about it. Go to orlandosentinel.com for more information. Of course, shows are coming to the hall, so go ahead and check that out. All right, well, that's all our topics for today. Appreciate you being with us. Of course, want to point out, go to orlandosentinel.com/subscribe and support our work. We always do appreciate that. But for us, we're going to go ahead and call it quits. Until next time, I'm Rich, Steve, and Matt. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Watch Orlando Sentinel Now live every weekday at noon on our Facebook page and on orlandosentinel.com.